It was yesterday, September 10th, 2024, at 1:17 p.m. I was informed that one of my closest friends I've known since middle school has began intentionally ejaculating inside of his wife of 2 years in an attempt to conceive their first child. It was today, September 11th, 2024, at 4:41 a.m. that I achieved my personal best time on the indie game Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy after 412 hours of total playtime, a time of 7 minutes and 14 seconds, which is considerably lower than the average speedrun time. It was also today, September 11th, 2024, at 5:27 a.m. that I intentionally ejaculated into my sock in an attempt to make the cleanup process as effortless as possible. For as long as I can remember, I've always been the odd one out, but I was never socially isolated due to my intelligence or stature. Far from it. I believe I was cast aside because the people around me were either too afraid or too stupid to begin to understand me. But can I really blame them? I digress. Before I open the doorway to my soul, I guess we should start from the beginning, eh? I was born into a childhood of pure trauma. I know everyone tends to bitch and complain about their upbringing, regardless of how laughably augmentatious it had seemed on the forefront. But a person like me, I've survived emotional battlefields that have left me crestfallen and downtrodden that the average person would crumble under in an instant. From my early days of relentless bullying from blockheaded oafs on the playground to heated debates with my guardians over the most affluent of inadequacies, it was from a very early age I realized that not only was I able to overcome and compartmentalize the trauma I faced in my early childhood, but I was a block above baseline in terms of intelligence. While my cohorts in class were mindlessly taking the IQ tests given to us by the teacher, I simply didn't put graphite from my pencil onto the paper, refusing to be placed into such a compartmentable box. I think my classmates picked up on my higher echelon of learning at speeds they couldn't personalize, because I started to have a deep-seated feeling of disdain emanating from them. And as the seasons changed like moths to a flame, they grew ever so further away as I grew closer and closer to my internalized grief. The trauma I faced as a child, while real as ever, couldn't hold a candle to what I would face in my early to mid-teenage years, however. The childhood, minimal effectiveness bullies turned into sharp, stabbing, critical hits of spoken magnitude, bashing me with insults about my weight, acne, and overall standoffishness. But through these verbal barbastitudes, my young heart yearned and longed and stretched for one thing: love. I had many romantical interests throughout high school, but my clouded, hormonal, compartmentalized mind tended to focus on their looks more than the content of their personality. That young stallion I was, always daydreaming about the Disney princesses, what a foolish young buck he was. But this line of thinking, it led straight to many deeply traumatic romantic miscommunications, where multiple floozies I had taken interest in would divert their gaze to the nearest imbecile with larger muscles than I. True love, am I right? But I knew my first love had to be saved for someone truly special and conventionally attractive and also a virgin. So I made the decision far past my numeric age of maturity and pledged voluntary abstinence until I had fully obtained personal wealth and success. And by Darwin, am I happy I did that? But this didn't stop the longing and nagging thoughts of sexual indecency. But through proper compartmentalization of those feelings and self-help through my own mental fortification, I pushed through high school into college like a dove pushing through the mastification of rudimentary flight and finding its wings. By the time college started, I had experienced enough bullying and beratation from my colleagues and parents that I simply had grown numb to it. Much like the tattoo rapper XXXTentacion dawns on his right cheekbone, I had simply grown numb to it all. I started listening to more and more dark and experimental musicians like Death Grips and 21 Pilots, and I began indulging in psychoactive substances to push my compartmentalized mind to levels I had deemed insustainatationalized. It was through my period as a psychonaut that I truly opened my third eye. I realized all of the bullshit classes and information I was intaking was shit for the birds. I knew my true calling. I was going to be a professional YouTuber. Breaking this to my parents was going to be no easy task. That's why I lied to them entirely and told them I was still taking my college curriculums and completing every individual worksheet provided, but they were too mundane-minded to see through that fib, allowing me to live at their house as long as I needed. But as we catch up to the current happenings of present time frame of my present life, everyone in my audience knows of the verbal sniper fire I still am at the mercy of to this day. Only now, it's not just compartmentalized to the outside world, but takes place over the digital plane, leaving hurtful comments up to the anonymized robots behind the computer screen. Get over yourselves. But I deflected these barbastitudes just as I did the ones in junior high, and I pledge the fifth when I state this. I will never stop fighting and protruding through the bullcrap that is flung my way, and by grace to Poseidon, I will never—
Lucas,
Mom, I'm making a video. Give me like 5 minutes.